Without further delay, let's welcome our presenter, immediate past district director, Sravanthi, distinguished Toastmaster. Sravanthi loves rhetoric, but understands that it alone cannot solve the need of the hour. She constantly inquires and questions her understanding of the world and its people. She is convinced that the answer to her dilemma lies in her overcoming her hidden biases and making every effort to inform and influence her own and others' actions through proactive dialogue. As an incurable optimist, Sravanthi revels in all things Toastmasters and believes in its unlimited potential to alter our perception of ourselves and the ever-evolving world around us. Sravanthi continues to learn by exploration within the Toastmasters realm. She has served in all club officer roles except treasurer. She has served as area director, division director, program quality director, and district director. She is also a club sponsor, mentor, coach, youth leadership program coordinator, pathways guide, DLC chair for 2020 to 2021, and our district's corporate club liaison. She is excited to share how we can make our communication borderless through her interactive presentation, Speaking Differently Together. Please help me welcome Sravanthi.
Thank you, Lauren. Dear friends, I want you to close your eyes just for one moment and turn your videos on. Close your eyes. Do you struggle to understand someone because he or she speaks differently or holds values that are different from yours? Do you believe the world would be a better place if only we took the time to understand its people? Do you wish to empower or feel empowered no matter where you are or who you are speaking to? If your answer is yes, open your eyes, because you can give this world what it takes, because you have the power within you to do the right thing. But my friends, is it as simple as that? Is speaking differently together simple? If you close your eyes, your answer is yes, it is not simple at all. But I am going to question that. With you, I am going to help challenge that notion. Can we not speak together differently? So today, I'm not going to give you a lot of statistics and links to go to and explore, but I am going to have that human within you think a little. Think about the world, think about yourself, think about what you and I can do together, because we are here to speak differently together and believe that we can change the world. $8 billion is spent in this world annually in diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Think about that. Can anyone take a guess what the population of the world today is? It's getting close to 8 billion. Imagine that. So if you and I are to change the world, we must think about this intentionally. If you were in Mo's presentation before this morning, she talked about some things. It's all well and done, Sravanthi, very aspirational what you're saying, but is it that easy? I say not, because you and I know that it's not. And I would love to see your faces if you're not on video. Come back on video, because it would be great to see you. I'm going to say, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we speak differently or why we should speak differently. I'm sharing my screen with you. Sometimes I find myself finding pieces and parts of the world all mashed up. I don't know where they belong or how I can arrange them. I don't ask all the right questions. I know I have hidden biases. I know I need to overcome them. I don't always have information. I'm not fully equipped. I go in circles at times. In this session, we are first and foremost going to understand what it means, what cultural diversity means. We are also going to learn to honor diversity and celebrate mostly through conversation. I'm not going to give you a lot of bullet points. I'm going to have us have a conversation. I am going to have us think. We are going to explore ways to promote conversation at home, at work, in the communities, in the countries, and the continents we live in. And therefore become leaders in borderless communication. Because at the core, my friends, humanity is borderless. Diversity is everywhere. If you look around, we are born with that notion of understanding diversity. But our unconscious biases, our lack of understanding, our lack of awareness and knowledge hold us back. How many of you have ever felt either held back by someone or felt yourself holding someone back? Let's see some chat here. If you can share, yes, no? How many of you have felt uncomfortable when you were with other people? Maybe they don't speak like you. Maybe they don't look like you. Maybe they don't walk like you or achieve like you. Right? Susan, thank you. Anyone else? Have you ever felt uncomfortable? That makes Susan and me, two of us in the room. Is there anyone here that has ever felt uncomfortable? Yeah?
Me too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Victor. Right? Certainly. And that's not because we are not well-intentioned. It is not because we don't want to be. We perhaps don't know how. So let's explore a little. First and foremost, like I said, 4 objectives. Number 1, cultural diversity. Now understand the meaning of it and the implicitness of it is important. Let me read it out to you. Cultural diversity means that a group, now let me again say a group, whether it is at home, at work, or outside in the community, a group contains people of different races, religions, ages, ethnicities, genders, sexual orientations. The list is endless: socioeconomic statuses, nationalities, and more. And I want you to close your eyes once again and think of an iceberg. Think of an iceberg. What do you see? You can shout it out. If you have your eyes open, shout it out, unmute. What do we see when we see the iceberg or when we think of the iceberg?
Just the tip of it.
Just the tip of it. Thank you, Susan. And why is that? Do we really believe that's how big the iceberg is? You can say, I am Indian, right? I look like one. I speak like one. I speak with an accent. I tell you that I am an immigrant. I came to this country about 26 years ago, right? I have lived more than half my life here. All of those things you know about me. I work at Progressive Insurance. I have 2 children. I live in Aurora, Ohio. But those are the things I have told you or you have found out about me. There may be a million other things you don't know. And the same goes for me. I don't know everything there is to know about you. The next is learning. What am I doing to learn to honor your diversity or my diversity? First and foremost, starts within. What am I doing to honor diversity? What am I doing to celebrate our cultural expressions? I'm going to ask you to unmute yourselves. Please unmute yourselves and say, how do you honor diversity? Does anyone here honor diversity?
Mhm.
And how do you do that?
Respect.
How do you respect that, Susan? How do you respect that in others?
By treating every person with dignity and knowing that you can always learn from them.
Okay. And I want someone else to share where you probably were a little uncomfortable honoring your own diversity, honoring your own culture. It happens to us, right? I know my child was not very comfortable taking Indian food for lunch. I understand that, right? If only other people didn't make fun of my child, she would be okay, right? Victor, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I'm sure you've heard about the African Union at Progressive, and we have a monthly meeting, and I basically coordinate these meetings. As part of our meetings, we go around each member to share their workflows, and I try to represent both females and males, the gender, and also the country. Sometimes it's very challenging because not everybody that I will wish for them to speak is ready. So I have to find an alternative, and that may bypass the diversity, the passion I have for that. But
sure,
I make the most out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Vim, go ahead.
Thank you, Sravanthi. I know growing up in my culture, being an Indian American, I used to have issues of my passions and what I wanted to do in my career. Well, in my career, I wanted to be a film producer, and a lot of people in my culture kind of looked at me like I was crazy. So it was a tough way to, overcome that. But
absolutely,
I've learned to be secure with myself in that regard.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, sharing your vulnerability. So in Victor's comment, we understood that there is intersectionality, right? He is trying to overcome that by putting himself out there. In Wim's remarks, we understand that there are expectations, there are societal expectations that we all need to live up to or feel the need to live up to. But sometimes we have to dig deep. We have to remember that we must honor our own diversity, whether it is diversity in thought process, in vision, in desires, in expectations of ourselves, right? And so in Wim's case and Victor's case, there is that intersectionality between societal expectations, who you want to be, where you want to go, and what we really need to do to get there. So we must honor that. And there is this word, right? We must learn to honor that. It's all action. And how do we celebrate cultural expressions? It's not just cultural celebrations, right? How do we really celebrate people? Not so much about events, but as humans, how do we celebrate? You can put in the chat, you can speak up, absolutely. Go ahead.
Food.
Food is a great way to bring people together. And we will be friends, actually, lend a hand or ask for help. I had trouble asking for help. I had real trouble asking for help. Not that I wanted to pretend to know everything, but I really thought I knew much, right? I had trouble asking for help. So we say, first and foremost, we need to understand what cultural diversity means. It is more than just what you see. It is more than just where I am from or, how I identify myself, right? And then we must learn. We must learn. And Wim spoke about, Victor spoke about workplaces and Wim spoke about his job and work. Did you know that racial diversity in companies gives it 45% more market share or makes it 15% or 15 times more successful? 45% of the market share, chances of going up. So it behooves us to learn to invest. The third one, explore. It's not comfortable, right? It's never comfortable to explore. We must find ways to promote conversation. Again, I keep repeating that. At home, at work, and in the community. And why am I doing that? I was in a previous session where Preeti was talking about introverts, right? And I also caught a little bit of more talking about unconscious biases. How do we promote conversations? At work, I think differently. At home, should I be thinking differently, or should I be taking my kids and my husband and my friends for granted? And my friends, they come in all shapes, sizes, all kinds of thought processes. So help me understand at home. Let's bring it home a little bit. Anyone in the chat or outside, help us understand, how can you explore to make your conversation better at home? Has anyone faced a challenge? In the chat, I see by acknowledging achievements, right, Victor? When we talk about young children or our own achievements or our spouses or our friends or our partners, do we consciously acknowledge their achievements? Do we consciously recognize that they may be struggling to express themselves, or they may be in need of your recognition or appreciation, right? And then finally, to becoming. So from understanding the definition to learning how to act, right, to exploring new ways, we finally arrive at our destination, which seems sometimes like a journey itself, right? So every day we make a small improvement, yet it is not the end. So how do we become someone who can speak differently with others and move forward together? By becoming an embracer, understanding that diversity is implicit, understanding that we are all different, understanding that we must be a little more intentional about how we approach diversity. Being an empathizer. Empathy is an entirely overused word, or somebody said that to me the other day. I said, why? They said, oh, I don't understand. Everyone says empathy. What do you understand by empathy? Anyone wishes to share?
Sravanthi, this is Therese.
Go ahead, Therese.
I think empathy is actually putting yourself in the other person's shoes and trying to imagine how it feels to be in their place, what they're experiencing.
And is it easy? Do you always understand, Therese?
I don't always understand. I certainly try, but sometimes we look at someone and sort of have a bias or something. And then when you think about, well, how would I feel if I were there? Just turn it around and think, well, okay, what if I was on the other side?
Mm-hmm.
How would this feel to me?
Absolutely, absolutely. Putting yourself in others' shoes. We think we do well, but we know we have more room to grow. We have more work to do. And then at Toastmasters, bringing it home, we are all leaders, right? Unless we embrace our differences, whether it's in a meeting room, at an event like this, or anywhere else, we really can't overcome. So to become real leaders, we must realize, we must believe that to succeed, our communication must be borderless. And we can only do that when we embrace, right? So you might say, this all sounds good. Sometimes in theory, everything sounds beautiful. The color combination, the blue slide, yellow print, and white, everything is superb, but humanity is complicated. So let's share a few tips. How do we do this? I want you to absorb this for a few seconds. And pick one that you want to speak to. And do you see Susan? Yeah, okay. Does any one of these resonate? I have a few more like this. Practical tips that you and I can take, practical steps we can take. Anyone wants to speak to one of these?
I was going to say that much of this, if you meet an immigrant or a refugee, that you will satisfy many of these.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you meet, and so this is something, right? When you meet, you must meet with an open mind. An open mind, and that's where the embracing comes, right? And sometimes people are looking at me, but they don't say hello. And I can assume that they don't like me. But guess what? If I turned it around and say, maybe they are just as hesitant as I am. This is a different way of thinking. I'm an immigrant. So what do you do if you have met me? You probably know. I'm the first one to say, hello, I'm Sravanthi. I extend my hand first. So the onus is not just on the other person, on Lauren or Susan or Bill or Vim. The onus is also on me. So as an immigrant, I have learned this. It took me a few years, but I learned this quickly. And I said, maybe they don't know how to say my name. Because at the doctor's office, they would say, I think it's you. Come on in. They wouldn't even read my name. So then instead of getting offended, I turned it around. I say, I know you're struggling. My name is Sravanthi. I'm ready. Can I come in now? You see? And not everyone can speak that way either. But we must make an effort. We must make an effort. And these are small but powerful and impactful ways. Just reach out, ask, and I have a few more. Find someone who has made a mistake in another culture and talk about it at lunchtime. How about that? I ask my kids all the time. I ask them, what happened at school? Right? And they tell me stories. I learn a lot from them. And find someone who can explain why the British still have separate taps for hot and cold water. I found this on the internet. It was so funny. Because sometimes we don't understand. It's just interesting to ask. And I have a last one too. Register for a course at school. I know Susan's going to school. She's learning about things that, she never thought she needed. And I never thought as her friend I could learn. So you see how you become the multiplier all of a sudden. Get a book recommendation. Read from a variety of authors on the subject. And most of all, share your vulnerability like Wim did just now. Say, I don't know. Help me. Or I say, I want to honor my vision. I want to honor my own diverse thought processes, my own level of achievement. You could do that too. Does this all sound good or resonate with us? Because I'm going to give you a challenge. There is homework at the end of this. Are you up for some homework? All right. Let's think about it. Let's give ourselves a minute. Of all these, and I can even go back, of all of these, I'd say pick one and write it down, please. If you have a sticky note by you right here, take a sticky note and please write it down. What are you going to do after today? What are you going to do Sunday through next Sunday? One thing to cross that border, to meld. And I mean it, I'm waiting, right? We're going to write it down. What are you and I going to do to make our communication a little more borderless? And Craig has a good point here. He says, change the means and style of interaction periodically to get folks out of reticence, right? Hesitation. Not all obstacles to communication are visible or group discussion worthy. Also, have a private conversation, right? Publicly, people are not comfortable. Maybe understand their need to learn differently, their need to communicate differently. Such a valuable point. Thank you, Craig. All right. So now what? Right? So did I say we have homework? Did you write that down? How many of you really did write it down? Fantastic. I love it. I love it. Small step, one small step. It does not have to be scaling Mount Everest or going and solving anything big. It can be a small step. And when we iteratively take small steps every single day, we get to that next place. Because we know we have 100% chance of improving our communication. We have a 200% chance of getting to a better place if each and every one of us thinks differently and believes that we can speak differently, but together. Okay, first and foremost, if you know me, you also know I give you some words. Give you my first word, expect. Don't be surprised, because there are no surprises. Diversity is all around us. There are zero surprises. There should be zero surprises. Look at this room. Look at all of us. Right? We are so diverse. So all these voices are inherent part of the world that we live in. And we all believe in, that's why we are here, right? With this conference, we all believe that all of these voices are significant, they're unique, and they need to be heard. Just look around. So your first word, my friends, is expect. Expect. No surprises. Expect that we are a diverse world and understand it. My next word for you is accept. So once there are no surprises, then we just can't leave it there. Accept that not every word, every voice is heard today in this world. And we have work to do, you and I. 80% of the world's problems can be solved, whether it's the political, economical, personal, emotional, social level, if we only took time to understand. Whether you go to Pew Research or Harvard Business, everything, your research will tell you. Common sense should tell us that this can be done. But our implicit biases, our lack of knowledge, our lack of willingness to learn and stay aware, hold us back. So we have assumptions to overcome. We have work to do. Nonverbal communication. David makes a really good point. Nonverbal communication is noted highly in how we interact. It could be as simple as leaning in, extending your hand, or smiling, or saying, I understand, or nodding, or acknowledging. All right. Are you ready for the next word? Do you remember what the first one was?
Expect.
Expect. Then accept it. If there is contention, there is no movement. You stall, right? So you must accept. Your third word is reflect. What can I do? What can you and I do, right? Because that's going to lead into my last word for you. And you can imagine what that is. I want you to think what you can do. I want me to think what I can do. And the last one, no surprises here, do something about it. Act. Awareness is the need of the hour. We must converse. We must get out. We must put ourselves out there. Because unless we include, unless we get out of our comfort zones, and unless we include, there is truly no hope. If this past year has taught us anything, my friends, it is this, that we have work to do. Right? We really have a lot of work to do. And sometimes we are hesitant. We are just comfortable because we are comfortable where we are. We are hesitant to get out and take that bold step for ourselves and for those who we care about. So let's recap the 4 words. The first one, unmute.
Expect.
Expect it. Expect diversity. There should be no surprises. And what's next?
Accept.
Thank you. Accept.
Reflect.
Reflect. Because that's when we think, how can I make a difference? How can I understand diversity? What part can I play in this world? Because I said, like I said at the beginning, I'm bringing this down to your and my level. Each of us at the atomic level can make a difference. And we must believe that we can make a difference. Thank you, David. Expect, accept, reflect, and last but not least, get out and do something about it. Right? It's only then can we speak differently together. Now we can open up to questions. I'd love to hear of some challenges. Thank you. I'd love to hear of some challenges from all of us because I refuse to believe that we don't have them. If we didn't have challenges, if we didn't have things to address, if we didn't have assumptions to overcome, there wouldn't be a need for these kinds of talks, right? Because we would be a world full of peace, prosperity, and success. There are going to be challenges. It is never ending. Susan, go ahead. You had your hand up.
I was going to share that one of the things where I've learned to learn more about diversity is in the area of LGBTQ individuals. I had a really sad situation in which one of my clients committed suicide after discharge. And I made a vow that I would learn as much as I could about transgender individuals. And now it's become what I'm doing with my therapist role and also what I'm doing with the theology that I'm studying.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And what do you do after? Like, you're educating yourself. I know you, but the audience may not. I know your work. So you're educating yourself. What next?
I'm also sharing a lot of things about use of pronouns on Facebook because I think a lot of this information can be intimidating to people who are new with it and not know even where to begin.
Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else would like to share a challenge, a personal challenge? Like showing vulnerability. Remember, I had it in green on the last slide. Bill, go ahead.
I think one initial challenge or continuing challenge is just realizing what your weaknesses are in diversity. What are the preconceptions you have of people, of groups, and being honest with yourself and setting up a plan to change oneself.
Absolutely. Preconceived notions about your own self, right? That goes into understanding, it's not on others. It's on us too, just as much. So the ownership is shared. And goals are achieved only when we share ownership. Excellent points. Excellent points.
Just want to make a quick comment about diversity and my reflection. And I'm reflecting on COVID-19 and how it didn't discriminate Black, white, rich or poor. And the world had to work together to come up with a vaccine. And I think we should adopt the same attitude in our regular life with respect to diversity and inclusion. We are all in this together. If there is a problem and we don't acknowledge it and find a solution, it will sweep us off our feet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it did not discriminate, right?
Yep.
And one time I remember I put something on social media that said, hunger does not discriminate. It doesn't, right? Just like that, calamity does not discriminate. And if this last year, thank you, my friend, if this last year has taught us anything, it is this, right? There is no discrimination in nature, for good or for worse, right? There isn't. So then why do we feel so challenged? Why do we not have an open mind to solve that problem? Should it have to come to loss of life? Should it have to come to complete devastation for us to open up? It shouldn't. We're all intelligent beings. Culture, the very definition of culture, is this conglomeration of our intellectual ability, right? So then why do we not make a tiny effort to overcome our hidden biases, overcome our lack of willingness to educate ourselves, overcome our borders or barriers that we set for ourselves. These are ones we created, right? We were born with the knowledge that the world is diverse. No two of us, of the 8 billion of us, no two are similar. There is no one else like me, right? So diversity is implicit. But inclusion, on the other hand, creation of equity, on the other hand, right, are something that take effort on our part. Right? Any other sharing of knowledge or questions? Anything? Yes, Therese.
So I have a challenge.
Sure.
My children are amazing. They are so culturally open and so wanting to learn about other cultures and become part of this great community. But my birth family is totally opposite. And it's really hard to deal with and speak to them because they're so closed-minded. That's my challenge, is how to get them to see their, how their thinking just does not fit. That's my challenge.
It is, and I come from a traditional family too. When I think about myself, I think my mom was progressive for her times, and my grandmother, I was lucky, was progressive for her times. But we write it off to tradition, write it off to closed-mindedness, right? I tended to do that too about some generations before me, right? I think there is always going to be a challenge. Change takes time, Therese, and you know that. You know that. You're a lot more experienced than I am. Change takes time. And our previous generations are habituated. We are accustomed to thinking, believing, and acting in ways that were informed by our experiences, by our culture, by our environment, by our milieu at that time, right? So if I know Sharon and your other kids probably you're giving them compliments today, that is compliments to you. I think this progress has to be generational, right? The fact that you are probably a certain way and your open-mindedness, your children have only improved upon that, as you have improved upon your previous generations or your other side of your family. So I see it as a continuum of improvement, of progress, right? They were good for their times. You improved over them, and your children, in your own words, hold a testament to how well you have done. And I think their next generation is going to be even better. So I think I used to label those people as like, how can you be this? How can't you understand that? How are you so close-minded, right? But they're informed by their generational culture, their milieu, right? So it can be very difficult. I would love to hear of any other opinions or suggestions here. Wim, yes.
Well, this is the words of wisdom, but this past year till now, I've been involved in my church, and I've been taking ministry courses, and I'll be graduating in a few weeks. So the one thing that God has actually highlighted for me is that I'm secure with my identity now. I don't longer have this mentality of thinking it was just my culture that, gave me the wrong impression of things. But all I know is that I'm no longer a victim, but I'm a victor, and I'm in victory. So I'm just saying I'm secure, and I love all of you.
Thank you. And tell us, or help us appreciate. Was it painful? Was it easy? Did it take you a long time? Where did you get started?
It took some time to process, because I was thinking, like, where were you in the situation, God, when I got hurt during this time? And, it's just after thinking about different events and certain incidences and words that were spoken over me, I just kind of like took it in, and then I just went to this space, just being vulnerable to it, and then just processing it, and then just being emotional about it, but then realizing that it's okay. It's really okay. Because I know I have this upper hand, and that I could share that upper hand with everybody else, and that I could be a voice and speak for someone and try to make a difference in their lives. Because I went through it, it's okay, but I can be able to share it with others and be like, yes, I was there, I was in your position, and let's talk. I'm here for you 24/7. So I just opened my heart to someone else and saying that, let's talk.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's leadership to me. And I had to redefine leadership for myself. For the longest time, even way into my adult years, I thought leadership was about having a loud voice, broad shoulders, and knowing everything. Absolutely not. Today, what I believe about leadership, or how I define leadership, is exactly the opposite of it. You could be a total introvert. You could have droopy shoulders. You could have a low voice and still be a great leader. It's exactly the opposite. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. I don't know everything. And I have learned from leaders who I look up to, who constantly say, there is so much for me to learn. And I know the CEO of our company said, Sravanthi, you are all such good communicators. I don't know if I can match up. You are inviting me as a keynote speaker to your open house. I'm like, he thinks I am a great communicator, and here I am, an individual contributor in a 45,000 employee company. And I'm speaking to a CEO who comes to me and says, I don't know if I'm as good a communicator as you. I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? That's exactly what I said to him. I said, Steve, you are where you are for a reason. And he said, I am an introvert. I still am an introvert. So to me, those were the lessons. So we redefine ourselves. We redefine a lot of the things that we have come to believe as true. And in Wim's story, in all of the thoughts that we shared, we really are going through. And I wanted to make this presentation simple. It's not about statistics. It's not about things that we already know. It is things we don't reflect upon enough. It is about the notions that we need to spend time on and do something about them for our own self. And in Wim's story, I saw a leader. I saw a leader who followed all of those 4 words we just read. Right? He was surprised. Now he knows to expect, right? Right? Maybe the first time he was surprised. Why is this happening to me? It shouldn't be happening to me. But now he knows to expect. Then he also knows to accept. He knows to reflect, although it is painful. He knows to reflect. And he now knows to act for his own self and for others. So this is not a scientific formula. I just came up with it. I said, what would I do as a human? What would I do to make myself and others better at a very human level? We can talk about constructs. We can talk about models. We can talk about frameworks. We can talk about all of that corporate speak that the world is spending $8 billion on, right? But we really need to talk about our own selves, my friends, you and me. How we can engage better, how we can empathize better, how we can educate ourselves. I wish I had the tenacity and the wherewithal that my friend Susan has to go to school and get a degree and actually intentionally read. So I don't miss one Facebook page post of hers, because you know what? Vicariously, I am learning. I'm like, I know something new today. I open Facebook and I go, what's Susan doing today? In the hope that I can learn a little bit. And now I've made a new friend in Therese. I did not know too much of her. I knew Sharon. Now I know Therese. I follow some people. just in the hope that I can learn something little, something new every single day. So I urge you to do the same. I urge you to come up with new ideas. I urge you to take action at a human level, at the atomic level that you and I live. Because guess what? The key word is believe. We must believe. If we are crazy enough to believe there is a better world out there, we must be crazy enough to believe we can make a difference. Right? Any new thoughts, any new challenges, any beautiful ideas? Yes, Keith.
Hi, Sravanthi. I just wanted to mention, I've over this last year, since we got thrown into a Zoom community, I've joined a couple of organizations, and I've been working with people from all around the world, people from Africa, South America, Ireland, England, you name it, and Croatia, Canada, even the United States. But it's amazing the people that I've been talking with, and they every one of them is no different than I am, and they all they're all striving for happiness. They're all looking for success in their careers, and they're all looking for friends.
Absolutely.
So, and it's just been an amazing journey this year. Thank you.
I so appreciate you sharing that, because if there is one silver lining to this whole past 14 months, it is that we can travel the world. We can travel the world. And I shared in my IPDD remarks the other day at the district council meeting, I said, I've traveled to 3 or 4 continents. I'm yet to cover the others. One small step, right? This is beautiful. We can look at the silver lining and say, there is hope. There is hope to learn about other people. Even within Toastmasters, 16,700 clubs. Links are all over the place. Just click on one and take a step. I did not list it. I think maybe I listed the Toastmasters logo in one of my suggestions. I should replace it by pick a meeting, pick a club and just go attend their meeting. Just by being quiet attendee, you and I can learn so much. Wonderful suggestion, Keith. Bring it home to your level, to my level. Excellent suggestions. Althea, would you like to contribute?
I just wanted to say communication is key. When you look at acceptance, whether you're at a doctor's office or at work, if you are willing to communicate with someone who's different than you, find common ground, communicate, you can work through all your differences.
Absolutely. And to Keith and your point, Althea, we are seeking friends. We are so alike. We are more alike than we are different. We truly are. And I hope you take this away. I hope you remember those simple words. Do not be surprised. If you're not surprised and you go proactively and say, I'm expecting everything to be different, and I can assure you I'm going to accept you just the way you are because I don't want this heartache, right? Make it easy. Make it easy on yourselves. Make it easy for me when I'm around you. I'll make it easy for you when you're around me. And I think we can bridge this gap and make it borderless in less time than you and I think possible, if only we try, if only we are intentional. I hope you took something away. I hope you act on it. You have some homework to do, you and I. I hope you act on it. And I hope you fill out that survey that Keith has put out there. Thank you.
Let's take this moment to thank Sravanthi for such a wonderful presentation.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sravanthi. Great job.
Nice work, Sravanthi.
Thank you.
Thank you.